Karma removed by Origen.
And we're starting to see some of that respect given to Karma now. I expect to see her take a lot more space on the bans here.
I'm really excited though, because there's only 2 bans left and more than Qiyana is still available here for us. We might see Qiyana for the first time in the LEC. More
There's
ban.
one.
Come on, Origen, are you gonna do it? Are you gonna let us have a bit of Qiyana action?
But even if you let her through, again, I feel like so many teams aren't willing to blind pick her that it feels like, okay, you got what you wanted. There's Yuumi. There's the possibility, Medic.
It's definitely a possibility. 3 supports ban coming out from Origen once again. I'm pretty sure they did that yesterday as well. Azir, the first lock, though, for Larssen. Does suit his playstyle, more of a control mage player, much more about bringing utility into those team fights.
Larssen's a phenomenal Azir player, but I can hear the crowd go wild. Yay, more Azir Corky. Yay.
It does make you miss Zoe, doesn't it, Frosk? Your tweet yesterday was pretty much on the nose.
When you miss Zoe, something has gone terribly wrong.
Well, we'll see if Origen have an answer other than the Corky in that mid lane.
Vel'Koz, please.
Vel'Koz could work, as you say. Aatrox will be their first lock. Expect that to go towards Alphari in the top lane. Of course, yesterday had a stellar performance on the Vayne. Today won't be piloting that one in this game.
Could still be a flex pick, however, and flex through multiple positions, not just the mid and top lane. I've seen some Aatrox jungle skirting around, although not as prominent.
Have seen it in LCK, I believe. We saw it in their Rift Rivals tournament as well. We'll see what Origen decide to go for here. At the moment, looks like they're going to lock in their support pretty early on. Of course, could be flex to mid, although Lux doesn't feel too much like a Nukeduck champion to me.
Does mean that Patrik's probably going to be leaning more on the likes of the Ezreal, and again, it's dissuading Hiku and Vander to look for the likes of Xayah and Rakan, because Lux certainly can punish them in that exchange.
Definitely can. There's the Olaf for Inspired. Gives you a lot of control over early skirmishes. We saw Rogue bring it out yesterday. He weren't able really to use it to full fruition, but we'll see if perhaps they can pilot it just a little bit better today.
I don't know if they're playing with them in that Vayne, hover.
I hope they are, because I don't think Hiku would be the guy I'd pick to play Vayne, and they're rattling through a lot of different picks right now. We'll see what they decide to lock in as their final selection, and it's the Kennen. Expect that to go up towards top lane in the hands of Prophet.
So far we have 2 really safe blind picks. It feels like Origen should start to pinch that bot lane a little bit, try to limit the options that Hiku and Vander have to perform on.
And we'll see if they decide to do that. Nukeduck, of course, still has the last pick of this phase for Origen. That Qiyana, still so tempting to me. I would love to see it for the first time on the professional stage, but instead it's going to be the Viktor. Could go down towards the bottom lane. Of course, we've already seen Patrik rotate towards mid on a Nico, so he is used to those mages. But
I was actually expecting when a team would pull out something other than Corky into the Azir matchup, I expect this to be Viktor slotted across from the Azir. He's one of the old school matchups, as we're starting to see Jizuke look towards the likes of his Echo, and now Nukeduck possibly playing the Viktor in here.
Well, we'll see how effective that old school matchup is. Ezreal ban actually coming out from Origen, so Patrik won't have his hands on that, but it also means Hiku doesn't have that safety in the bottom lane.
So is this going to be the Xayah Lux for absolute lane control? The ability to snare people between the binding and the Xayah feathers is pretty potent.
Definitely be incredibly impactful. Rogue deciding to pinch out that jungle pool just a little bit with the Jarvan ban. Have seen Alphari take that top once this split as well. They were able to win that game. So that flexibility of the Aatrox is still available for Origen if they want it.
This also tells me that Hiku might be edging towards Sivir as a possible pick, using the spell shield that can keep her safe in a lane that already has a lot of CC with the Lux there. And since you're taking away the Jarvan, not only is Jarvan obnoxious for Olaf, because he can discount a lot of what Ragnarok wants to do, but then he also helps Sivir really thrive, because Jarvan lands on Sivir, she can't do anything.
Definitely agree with that read from you there, Froskurinn. With the Nautilus ban coming out from Origen, I'm trying to think, it works really well into the Lux, and so that Lux is probably going to go towards the supporting role, especially with the Aatrox and the Viktor locked in. Don't want someone that can pick you off pretty easily with that dredge line. And here, Rogue with their final ban will continue to pinch the jungle pool, removing Lee Sin from the game, although Kold, not the strongest Lee Sin player in the world.
They're making sure that there's not a lot of pressure that's put on either Prophet or Larssen by giving Origen the possibility of looking for a strong jungler for a 2v2, either top or in the mid lane. So feels like Kold has to weight his best options. I do agree with the Rek'Sai, which will just help him control that river rather than trying to contest via ganking.
He might be looking to gank just a little bit more as he's gone for the Sejuani now instead of the Rek'Sai. Had only played the Rek'Sai once already, the split had lost on it. Sejuani, he's brought out 3 times overall with a 66% win rate.
For me, when I think about Sejuani and kind of her return into competitive play, I really do think about Origen as kind of like the Sejuani team. They've put more priority on this champion than I feel like other LEC teams.
And Rogue immediately lock in the Ashe Tahm Kench lane. It's one we've been seeing a lot, and I know you have quite a special name for that lane, Frost.
Yeah, shout out to Tim on Twitter. We're gonna call the Ashe Tahm Kench lane Ashe Kenchum.
It's a very good name.
Yes.
Very good name. Instead of putting the Pokemon into the ball, you get into the Pokemon's belly. That's what the Ashe is going to do in that lane. Origen looking towards the Sivir to round out their comp. Safe AD carry, nerfed a little bit by the Essence Reaver changes, but still very strong.
Kind of interesting. I expected that he would go for the Xayah and really try to play a lot of pressure by swapping towards the Sivir. You can kind of see the idea of Sivir into Ashe, that she's able to absorb a lot of the volleys and the arrow, but it's actually really difficult to play because once Ashe is level 6, if you ever use your spell shield on the volley, that's going to be an immediate arrow to the face. So it only kind of holds for the first 1 to 5 levels. And even though you think that with Sivir's spell shield that she could theoretically counter Ashe, it's still a pretty difficult matchup in terms of the timing.
Especially when you don't have a hard disengage support like an Alistar or Braum to stand in front of you. Lux can disengage if you hit the binding, you have the shield as well, but it's not as powerful as disengage from something like an Alistar.
And with the swap also of taking the Viktor not into the Azir, but swapping him up into the top side, that Sejuani is now making even more sense. Origen are kind of going back to the basics of saying, okay, it's not going to be Rek'Sai and Viktor here, it's going to be Sej, Aatrox. We are going to play around this 2v2, and we're going to try to get this flash out of the Azir early on.
It does make a lot of sense. Like the adaptation, I'm grown a little bit bored of seeing Azir and Corki in every game. Origen trying to speed up the tempo a little bit by having that melee mid laner alongside the Sejuani. Very easy to land that CC chain in mid. We'll see if Origen can pull it off today because they are looking, you know, at a 4th, 5th spot right now. That's not where they would like to be. They'd like to be near the top. We'll see if this game could be their next win. Back onto the Summoner's Rift once again. A mammoth task in front of Rogue, you have to think, after their loss yesterday. Facing down Origen is never going to be an easy feat, but Origen looking reasonably good at the moment. Not excellent, but pretty okay.
I do want to point out Prophet running the Unsealed Spellbook on the Kennen up into the top lane. I just peeked in. A couple of players are doing this. It's not super common yet. I saw that Sword over in the LCK has a couple of games of Unsealed Spellbook Kennen. Obviously, you usually go for something like the Airy, or excuse me, the Comet Airy, either press the attack if you want to do like the on-hit Kennen build, Kleptomancy, things like that. So there's a lot of variation in Kennen Keystones, but we'll definitely have to keep track on when Prophet is swapping out his summoner spells and if that gives him kill pressure in these lanes, because that's usually what it means, is use the early teleport, you get it for the ignite, and once you're at that level 6, you're looking for the all-in, and I expect Inspire to be underneath him when that happens.
It also helps mitigate some of Viktor's kill pressure in that lane as well. Alphari's running the Airy here instead of the Klepto, which means he wants to just continually poke with that Siphon power, get that Q off as often as possible, and with Prophet being able to switch to something like the heal or the barrier or the exhaust, it can mitigate a little bit of Alphari's pressure in that lane. But Alphari has always been a very good Viktor player, and I am worried for Prophet up towards that top side.
And of course, we talked about how Viktor can be an answer into Azir, or one of the old school matchups. He's also great into Kennen, so Origen probably feeling very confident in their ability to flex these two champions and find the matchup they really felt comfortable, not only in champion versus champion, but player and player.
And I think looking at those junglers early on is always important for this game. As you said, Inspired maybe looking to go towards Prophet, get him ahead of Alphari, whereas Kold could go towards the mid lane.
And I like that Larssen is heads up, and he knows that with the Aatrox and Sejuani, that they want to punish him early, they want to get that flash out of the Azir, and he's full respect. He's not running the teleport, he is running the cleanse, so he does expect some sort of attention and making sure that he's staying safe in that mid lane.
Because early on, you do expect him to have lane pressure in a pure 1v1. If there's no junglers around, Azir should be Aatrox, because you can just continually harass him down with the soldiers. The question is what happens when those junglers make their impact known. Kold has always been that catalyst for Origen in the early game, the guy finding them those ganks, tracking the enemy jungler really well, and we'll see if that's what he does this game as well.
Kold's opting not for early ganks. Instead, it looks like he's going for a majority full clear. So not peeking around, maybe he suspects that there's wards near the mid lane, and it's not worth his time just yet. It also is still quite dangerous when you're against the likes of an Olaf.
It definitely is. We see Hiku getting actually a good early push down there in the bottom lane. Has a little bit of a CS lead, but Ashe is so strong at getting those volleys off, especially with the Comet, which is what we're seeing a lot more of now. Get the Comet, you go towards that Trinity forcing, you put a lot of pressure down. Patrik already down to about half health, and there's no heal on Origen. They do have an exhaust and the Guardian on Mithy, but Mithy caught out just a little bit. One more Tongue Lash could spell his demise, but for now he'll survive. Inspired is down here waiting to see perhaps if he can find a gank pot.
And again, you can see right here, a lot of that damage that you were just talking about is continuing to stick. The spell shield cooldown is just so long for Patrik that Sivir is just not the free answer here when you have to deal with a lot of poke damage.
It's so difficult for you to actually match up into that lane. You do have wave push, which is part of the good thing. You know, your Ricochet can kind of counter push into the Ashe, but it's going to take a while before you're really able to match up the pressure that Hiku Vander lane can put down.
You're waiting on probably the first or possibly second back before Sivir finds the ability to just free clear a wave with her W and her Q combo and then maintain the mana there. So he's not going to be able to compete with Ashe's wave clear for a while here. This is an early roam, though, from Kench.
Kold here as well, as Inspired catches him out. You could see Vander maybe anticipating Kold looking for that first gank after his full clear, and that was why Vander was there ready with the Devour. Kold goes into the bush once again. Lots of pings coming out here from Rogue, setting up for the counter gank. Larssen maybe just looking to overextend as tad as Kold jumps in. Inspired walks straight behind them. I think he was spotted out on the ward that was in that river bush. He's going to try and get behind Alphari up towards the top side. And
we'll watch Alphari's posturing. He doesn't know.
He doesn't profit going in straight away. Alphari flashes away, looking for the stun here. Locked up, the gravity field comes out, but Inspired's going to flash through it. Looking for the damage on Alphari. One more shot will be enough. Profit with the auto. Alphari goes down.
And huge credit to Inspired right there to use his flash.
Oh, Kold's here in time, though. Could pick up a couple of kills here. Gets the burst onto Inspired, and Profit has no flash. Kold already burnt his. No flail of the Northern Winds to get the chase off.
I mean, it caught Inspired off guard. It also caught our observers as this Sejuani just like flew in from the bottom of our screen. Still, huge shout out to Inspired. I love the fact that he used the flash around the Viktor gravity force?
Yep, gravity field.
Yeah, there we go, to avoid the CC there, and made sure that he got enough damage for Profit to set up and get that kill.
So let's have a look at this. Kold goes for that gank in mid, and Inspire's just trying to stick around the vision. It looks like he just about dodges out from it there, so good awareness from him to know that he wasn't going to be spotted if he could hug that wall.
An excellent communication between Inspired and Larssen. This is one of the combos that Rogue was really leveraging on to make this work, to say, okay, you're absorbing the pressure in the gank, which means I can get something off into the top lane for Profit here.
And you can see Alphari with a very early flash there. He did know Inspired was on the top side of the map because he'd battled versus Kold before we saw that little replay. So he had that awareness, but just wasn't able to get himself out in time. Down towards the bottom lane, both laners have backed, teleported back in. It's double longsword for Patrik, Essence Reaver the way he's going, and Hiku has himself a BF sword.
Still dealing with a lot of that poke damage. It feels like it's going to be a back and forth. Patrik's going to feel a little bit better now competing with Ashe's wave clear since he has some flat AD. But I still feel like we're trying to get this flash.
Larssen still has the cleanse as well, remember, and with level 6 can put down the Emperor's Divide and really separate any fight.
So we're not making the stick for Origen where they're getting the successful ganks off. That said, Nukeduck has been put repeatedly and multiple times into matchups where he's maybe not getting the most out of it because he will put himself kind of in inferior matchup or just not have the kill pressure that he needs, but it doesn't matter because he's still able to get enough resources onto his champion and make it count in the late game.
And with Kold on the top side of the map, Rogue are just going to start up this ocean. Patrik actually went for a second back to pick himself up a fair chance. Nukeduck pushed back in here. He's going to pop the world ender. There's no one here to help him yet. Devoured by Vander. Spat out back into Larssen. Nukeduck healing up just a bit, but Inspired is here. And Nukeduck's stuck in a very hard place. Larssen takes him down.
And that's the caster curse right there, with just praising Nukeduck. You know, he takes bad matchups all the time. It doesn't matter. It doesn't seem to stick to him. But Vander has a quick little waddle, quick little jaunt through the jungle.
And that's the power of Vander. You know, he's done it twice now, being around that mid lane when a gank could occur or when they could make a play. And because of it, Rogue are 2 kills to the good.
Still have to question the fact that he walked over a ward.
Yes, I can agree with you there. Perhaps not the ideal thing to do, but this is actually a struggle that we have seen from Origen. Sometimes their early game just isn't as strong, and Nukeduck here just gets caught out, doesn't anticipate the Emperor's Divide from Larssen.
Yeah, but he really should.
Yep.
Like, this is Nukeduck just being very greedy in that trade and getting immediately punished for it, knowing that Vander was in the area.
You can see in the picture-in-picture, Kold forcing off Profit from that top lane. I do want to just talk a little bit more about Origen's early games, because this split, they have really struggled. They haven't been able to get the leads they used to. Mithy caught out a little bit here in the bottom lane, but he's going to be fine for the moment. And when you see Origen falling behind in the early game where they used to be so controlled, I'm actually a little bit worried for them coming into the second half of the split.
And I think a lot of that, again, still has to do with the fact that this is a team that will sometimes take lesser matchups to make something happen for them later on, but it'll hold the point because this is an incoming dive, flashless Mithy. They're just trying to clear out the wave to get to buy themselves some time for these backs.
Well, they managed to clear out the wave for the moment. Patrik and Mithy able to survive underneath the tower. Blue buff's going to be stolen away here by Larssen, but Kold stole one of his own. Now they're going to gank straight on towards Larssen. Inspired on his way, Larssen's going to shuffle away. Kold takes a little bit of damage, but can't be slowed, of course, from that passive. Makes it very hard for Rogue to actually get any more chase off.
But you can still see some of the threat there from Origen if Sejuani and Aatrox are teamed up and they do manage to get a hold of this Azir. So trying to find those opportunities.
Okay, so as we come up to the 9-minute mark, Frosk here, I want to have a look at how we thought these lanes were going to play out, because we said Origen would probably play around the middle lane, Rogue maybe would look towards that top lane. Rogue did, however, they still got about a 16-17 CS deficit on Profit up there. In the mid lane, there's about a 10 CS lead for Larssen, so it seems like although Origen have been focusing mid and Rogue have been focusing top, the lanes are going in the opposite direction.
It just feels like credit really in this early game, at least for the first 10 minutes, has been to Inspired and Larssen. Good tracking of Kold, Larssen being very respectful in the lane phase.
Oh, flash in there by Larssen. Nukeduck's going to pop the world ender, running down towards the bottom side. Ragnarok used by Inspired for the chase, still has the flash and the smite. If he wants to slow down Nukeduck, the soldiers will come in. Inspired's gone the long way around, but Nukeduck with the movement speed from that ultimate's going to get away. The ammo, long range! The sniper connects, HiQ finds his mark, and Inspired takes the kill.
And say what you want about HiQ, I know he faces a lot of criticism, but he is a very good Ashe player. It's always been one of his champions that he can pull out alongside the Ziggs, finds the long-range arrow to punish Nukeduck again on this champion.
And Kold has to settle for just the Rift Herald up towards this top side. 500 gold lead for Rogue. Plates have been taken in favor of Origen, but none yet by Rogue, so they haven't translated some of these kills in the mid lane towards anything more. We'll see once again, Nukeduck just getting caught out.
I really want the camera to pan down bottom so we can see HiQ.
I believe in him. It's going to happen. Well, we'll see the arrow come in at least. We did see the picture-in-picture when it happened.
I think the important thing is that he's backing into Fog of War to hide the arrow going off.
That's some pretty high-level observing. Do you want to pay attention to the fact that Inspired just stole away the Rift Herald while all of this was happening as well? So we'll see him with that objective during this next portion of the game. Not 100% sure how Kold was forced away from it, but Inspired gets it in the end. And because of that, they can then look to take down some of these turret plates that are worth so much in the early game.
Rise up, Rogue and Excel. Where were you when the bottom teams of the LEC decided to finally fight back?
So here's the thing, though. I have 100% predictions so far, and I predicted Origen to win this game.
So you cursed them?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much is what happened. We'll see if Rogue can use this advantage to play into the mid game, because let's talk about how they're going to do that. What are the steps that Rogue have to take, having about 1,000 gold lead here, to actually translate that into a victory?
Well, the most immediate thing is where they're going to use the Rift Herald, and you can feel that Origen are trying to set up a defense so they don't get to use it for free into the mid lane. I feel like using it... Oh, we're going to see the replay. He's just going to walk up,
runs up to him. Kold has to back away.
Yeah, because Olaf's like, I can either take this or I can run past it and I can kill you. So Kold just had to say, I couldn't sneak it, didn't have the vision.
It's good from Inspired, though. We talked about how well he tracked Kold, how well he's been able to find these ganks.
Oh,
well,
he's had a great game.
Yeah, you have to be able to track when your opponent's doing objectives as well. Second Ocean Drake on the board for Rogue if they want it. That mitigates some of the laning deficit in the top lane and gives you even more pressure down towards bot, because HiQ can spam out those volleys even more.
So what I was going to say is the Rift Hill will be used in tandem with the arrow. There's the arrow.
And Patrik blocks out the arrow. Vine is going to connect. Glacial Prison comes out as well, and Vander pops the thick skin, but the teleport's coming in. He's going to flash away for the moment, but Origen is still on the chase. Goes golden, but there's not really much left to save him. Alphari will take him out, and that is a good kill from Origen, but they invest a lot. Excellent
expense there. The fact that Patrik was able to get the arrow with the spell shield, so he wasn't forced to use the cooldown early, and then an amazing turnaround from Origen will also open up the Ocean Dragon for them.
Yeah, really good turnaround from then. Kold's going to start up that Ocean Drake. It does give Prophet just a little bit of time by himself up towards the top lane. You can see Nukeduck trying to get around there to mitigate some of these plates going down, but Prophet getting towards, you know, a couple of items on that Kennen will just make these team fights so much stronger from Rogue when they get towards the mid to late portion of this match.
It's also then unfortunate that Rogue didn't get to contest over things like this Dragon because they really want a team fight around this Kennen.
This is a really cool call, actually. That's 3 plates left on the tower. Inspired came up here just in time, and this should be all 5 plates going down. Rogue using the Rift Herald absolutely perfectly. Yes, they lost some stuff on the bottom side of the map for it, but because of it, they get about 1,500 gold lead. The gold between the top laners is now even.
I mean, you said it, Medic. It's just a very quick response to the fact that this play bottom didn't work out for them, but they don't waste any time and immediately trade it for the top. So, like we said, you've got to get that spell shield away from Sivir first, otherwise she's just going to do that every single time. And a good read from Origen to know that the play was going to be bottom. Before this happened, Mithy warded out the Ocean Dragon. Olaf, a jungler who can do the dragons for free by himself, so Mithy trying to scout out for that, and knowing that this was going to be the target.
Well, Origen trying to get these plates in the top lane as quickly as they can, but they're about to expire, so they won't be able to get any more. And as we say, although Rogue have the lead, Origen are still in an okay position. I actually heard from our stats team, they've only been ahead twice at the 15-minute mark this entire split, and they lost both of those games. So if you're an Origen fan out in the audience, look at 15 minutes, be like, well, we want to be behind in gold as Prophet jumps in onto Nukeduck, flashes away. Prophet burnt his flash and his Hex Tech Proto Belt. Kold coming in. Larssen actually tanks up the prison, cleanses it away, didn't even have his flash, but he acted as a bodyguard for his teammate.
Very good disengage. Now, they did manage to trade flashes from Prophet to Nukeduck, so we'll see if, again, Nukeduck is punished. Already 0-2 on this Aatrox.
Nukeduck has had a few games this split where he just gets put quite far behind. Aatrox games especially. I remember one from week 2 where he felt very far behind. Alphari's still in a good spot here. You can see the Ignite from the spellbook coming out there. Really just felt harassment more than anything else. You want to change those spells around. And although Origen have taken an extra couple of plates, they weren't there when the gold went down, when the plates went down, so they don't get the gold. And that's just a little bit of a waste.
But Rogue are still setting up to continue to punish Nukeduck. He's caught out again.
Arrow doesn't quite connect, but Nukeduck's forced underneath the tower and doesn't really have a way out of this. The Ragnarok comes out. Inspired is on a tear this game. Came new into the team this split, and he is having a stellar performance.
One of our better Olaf players in the LEC. It feels like sometimes this champion just isn't worth the risk if you don't get the early game snowball off, but Inspired making it look clean and easy here.
Especially against a jungler like Kold, who we highlighted so often last split. We were talking about him in playoffs. He was the guy, the cerebral jungler, the guy that read his opposition. Inspired here has always been either in pace with Kold or one step ahead.
To be fair, the game plan just didn't pay off, so there's not a lot that Kold can do right now, especially when his mid laner is 0-3. The only silver lining is that the arrow also didn't hit Nukeduck, but Inspired knew that he's already dead.
And Vander there just to take down the tower aggro at the end. 16 minutes in, 1,600 gold between these two teams. Origen, they looked for an answer for the first pick, Azir. So far, it hasn't worked at all. However, we know how strong they can be when you get towards these objective fights, when you get towards the vision game. That is where they shine.
And it's also about, do Rogue have the consistency to close out from here? Now, they have been better than Excel at doing that because they do have a couple of wins, 2-5 right now onto the scoreboard. But that's always going to be the question for Rogue, is they need to show us more consistency that when they do get these leads, they understand what to do with them.
Well, next steps for them, you've got an Ocean Drake coming up pretty soon. Baron in 4 minutes as well. Still that mid lane tower there for them. Trying to group up around it, but it's actually quite difficult to get the damage out because you have the wave play over Sivir. You have a Lux there who can always just land a binding, and then immediately the Sejuani can jump in.
I'm still just very impressed with Inspired. He knows exactly who his man is. He's going to follow Nukeduck around the map. He plays around vision very well. Maybe caught out a little bit, although he's pinging on the way. He might have caught Mithy. But look at how he's moving along his control boards.
A great arrow, long range, the Abyssal Voyage. The Ashe catch him, the Pokeball is go, and Mithy cannot survive. He gets taken out like with the Elite Four. Rogue find another kill.
I know that it was Hikyu that hit the arrow. It was Hikyu who set up the kill. Do want to give him credit, but again, Inspired is so intelligent in this game. He played around 3 different control wards to get behind Origen and surprise Mithy like that.
Incredible stuff by him all around. Now Vander going to get the ward onto Nukeduck, who already backs away. Alphari has taken that top tier tower, a 50 CS lead for him. And we have seen how much he can take over a game. Yesterday on the Vayne into Mordekaiser, he dictated the pace for Origen. Here, he's going to have a very similar performance, I feel, if Origen are going to get anything out of this game.
Oh, Origen at this point just need to pump the brakes and then just start farming up towards 2 items for their champions. Yeah, they've got a Sivir, so you're like, maybe they can come back, but you still have just as much late game insurance policy as Rogue doing on their composition.
Hikyu's hit a couple of great arrows this game as well.
He's a good Ashe player.
Yep. I know sometimes people look at him and say he's not the caliber of AD carry you might see usually in the LEC, but you have to hit those ults, you have to be able to find your man.
We were having this discussion, you know, when they made the swap from Woolite over to Hikyu, it kind of felt like a sideways swap. Some people saying it might just be a straight downgrade, but it's like Hikyu's the Ezreal player, or excuse me, the Ashe player, whereas Woolite's the Ezreal player.
Arrow coming in, it doesn't hit anyone, straight through the goalpost. Prophet came in with a TP as well. Alphari's going to flash away, Glacial Prism doesn't connect, and Rogue now backing away. Larssen down to about a 3rd HP, Prophet in Inspired, down towards the bottom side. Ragnarok used, Origen still on the chase, but they will settle for just the Ocean Drake.
Just throwing out every single ability, seeing if they can catch everyone, but no one goes down. Virtually every ultimate used.
It's great for Origen though. Like Larssen burnt his flash cleanse, arrows down as well. Abyssal Voyage still not up. You can now use this time to get some vision control. Yeah,
but it's vision control over what? Unfortunately, since Baron's not in play and they can't just sieging the map because no one died, so much wave clear is there. The cooldowns almost don't mean anything as much. If that fight happened, you know, 3 minutes or 5 minutes later, then maybe.
I'm just used to solo queue, you know, where your side laner dies and it's like, oh, it took 4 ultimates to kill me, guys. What are you doing?
So we take another look at this one. So the key thing is, of course, this arrow right through the wickets.
Cricketing term. I like it, Frost. I like it. Everything missed, basically. Apart from the final spark, no TL Steve here today, but Larssen still didn't go down. Ragnarok did have to be burnt. Prophet unable to find a connection with his ultimate, didn't even use it in the fight because he couldn't find the avenue of approach. And now, as we crest the 20-minute mark, it's about 1,500 gold between these teams. Inspired looking for a gank down bot.
He's got the exhaust. Where is it going to be? Surprise!
Prophet goes in, slicing Maelstrom. Alphari, no way out, hasn't got the flash, hasn't got his life, and Prophet will take him down.
The exhaust just for good measure right there. Don't think you necessarily needed that one, but it is free.
Pretty easy kill. Patrick's actually just burned.
Yeah.
Immediately.
That's how that works.
Tongue Lash comes out, Spell Shield goes down, and Patrick's like, well, flash ultimate, I'm out of here. You have to dodge that arrow.
You have to pick your poison.
Maybe thinking he could have tanked it or something with Kold coming around the corner, but probably would have died before Kold could even join the fight.
Most of the time, it's like reflex. As a Sivir player, you're just like, of course I'm going to Spell Shield this. You're like, crap.
Well, I've seen you. You usually don't spell shield even the simple skill shots for us.
Whoa, I get Malphite ults all the time.
Okay, I forgot about your elo being your sort of Malphite level. Anyway, Inspired Prophet will steal away the Scott of Crab here as we do see Nukeduck pushing in a side lane. He's almost caught up in farm. He's about 30 behind. There's about 40 in the top lane. Actually, a pretty big CS lead happening in that bottom lane for Patrik as well, being funneled in some of that farm. It's about 40, 35 ahead.
And that's the key thing. It's the fact that Patrick's been parked into these lanes and he's just hoovering up everything, whereas Hikyu is being moved around a lot, more so for his utility, which is why you're really seeing that gap start to open up for them. But, you know, Patrick's responsibility is very different than Hikyu's responsibility for this game. Patrik is going to be one of your primary damage dealers, where, yeah, Ashe can put out DPS, but again, she's mostly here to control the fights and really allow her Azir and Olaf to shine.
So is that the aim for Rogue? They're looking for a big fight around an objective. Slicing Maelstrom, Emperor's Divide, looking for the Ashe Arrow pick as well. Is that what Rogue's composition is looking to do?
I mean, yeah, it's always going to be one of those options when you do have an Ashe. I do like how Hikyu is constantly ducking into Fog of War and opening himself up for possible arrows.
Have to see if you can get it from the darkness. Origen creeping up a 4 here. Inspired is around the corner, but that tower already down to about half HP. Nukeduck on his way. Inspired has the ult. Will pop it. Still has the flash if he wants to jump away. Kold looking for him. Flash away here, but that Ragnarok's going to run out and the stun's going to connect. The final spark comes in. The arrow's not going to do too much. Shut down on the jungler as Nukeduck comes in for Larssen off towards the top side. It's very scary, as you say. He could get some damage in. The Emperor's Divide comes out. Nukeduck jumping forward. Larssen flash devour. Vander keeps Larssen alive and gets him underneath the tower. Kold now on the front line as Nukeduck has to back away. Origen retreating back to the jungle.
Vander is an absolute hero right there. Not just because he saved the Azir, but if Azir dies there, that is immediately a Baron from Origen because you lose the big threat that can force them off of the Baron. The other thing is the fact that Kold took so much damage in the exchange, they can't immediately turn towards it. But that's why Nukeduck was like, I have to go for this one, flashing after the Azir there.
And you can see those creative gank paths that we've seen from Inspired all game can sometimes lead to ruin. If the entirety of Origen are on the same page, they can stop you from getting anywhere near your team. And Nukeduck coming down from top just catches out Inspired.
And again, the idea here is we've caught their jungler, the Baron is up. You can see that the Azir is on the top lane and Origen ping him out right now, so they know that they have the Azir, the big AoE damage dealer, and the jungler. Again, if Origen are able to kill both of them and maintain health on one of their tanks like Kold, they will immediately turn towards the Baron, which is why Vander is like, at all cost, save Private Azir here.
Does a really good job of it as well. Almost catches Kold underneath the tower. Teleport coming in by Rogue down towards this dragon. Kold's actually a little bit pushed up towards that Tribush. Final spot comes out. Abyssal Voyage actually cancels it. And now with an Infernal Dragon on the cards, the sights of both these teams are no longer on that Nasher pit. They're looking towards the Drake. Origen going to start it up. Rogue on his, Inspired on his way, but Rogue might just say, okay, you take the Infernal, we'll take your tier 2 mid. They're going to take the tier 1 very quickly, and of course with the Azir, you can put a lot of damage down. You can put the Sun Disc down as well.
Do you need to be very careful about a possible flank here? I feel like Origen are really going to test how scary Rogue's composition is at this point in the game, but because Kennen's grouped up with them, you can see they're like, do we back and reposition to get in front of them? Do we look for the flank? And I think because Kennen is grouped up, they're like, we probably don't want this one.
Are they hard force Baron?
They're walking on it.
They're all around it. They've started it up. On the hunt used here by Origen. Rogue have started up the Baron. Origen on their way. Alphari teleported to the top lane. Rogue just wanted to see if Origen had any vision. Origen are in a stronger spot in terms of itemization right now. You've got the Infinity Edge and the Essence Reaver already complete on Patrik.
Yeah, but Origen play it very cool right there. It was a bold call from Rogue to try to force up the TP. They did get the response from Alphari, but again, this is a triple TP team. Nukeduck, Patrik, and Alphari all have one. And you can see that Nukeduck, despite the fact that he is 1-3, he's starting to be a nuisance out into those side lanes. And they're just like, it's fine. Play it slow. We got control over the Scuttle Crab. Rogue can no longer be so confident to walk up to the Baron, especially from blue side here with that Scuttle control.
Rogue do still have about a 2,000 gold lead. 10 minutes ago we asked, can Rogue translate that lead into a victory? It's kind of been a stalemate since then. Origen continuing to fight back in this game, but now Rogue, with those 2 item spikes, with those completions, could look for another one of the team fights. All it takes is a good Prophet flank. He's got his flash, he's got his ult. If he gets onto that backline, it's very difficult for Origen to completely disengage.
Yeah, but while the math is actually split out like this, where Larssen is top, where Prophet is bottom, this is where you're looking at Kold. He wants to engage on the rest of the team, the 3 members that are left in the mid lane, or most likely probably the Tahm Kench and the Ashe, and see if they can force a pick. So Mithy and Kold, anytime Origen are in their 1-3-1, are hunting to try to find TQ.
On the hunt.
They're hunting now for Larssen.
Looking for that top lane. It's only Larssen and Inspired up there. Teleport available from Prophet if he wants to join the fight. They might just have to force it. Larssen here, spotted out.
Prophet would need to TP.
Prophet can TP on that though, and Origen immediately realize they disengage. The Abyssal Voyage is available for Vander as well if they want to join the fight. But Origen say, not today, my friend. We're not getting anywhere near that Sun Disc.
Oh, that was such a bold move from Larssen. He plants his tower. He's like, no, no, no. I am not stuck up here with you.
I will not be moved, but Kold will be shuffled back. Flashes across the wall, but he's forced away again. And now the arrow comes out from Hiku. Kold is caught. Origen's hopes of securing that Baron may go down in smoke as Larssen takes him out. Rogue can turn straight towards it. There's no jungler for Origen.
This is a disaster for Origen. You can see that they're grouped up around the pit. They know exactly what the play is, but without the smite, they must contest with a 5v5 or a 4v5.
Nukeduck has to teleport in as well. Origen going to use it. Rogue maybe just deciding they want to get the TP out.
How bold are you going to be?
Look at the call at the moment. It's so split. They're on both sides. Prophet teleporting in behind here. Rogue have the flank. I talked about it, and Prophet is there! Rogue collapse, and Origen can do nothing about it. Now it's all on Nukeduck and Alphari. They have to fight back. They have to find find an avenue of approach. The final spark does not connect. Mithy falls down. Rogue turn back towards Nasher.
And the calm veneer is shattered from Origen. They make a massive mistake, and Origen are being forced to make the decision here. Rogue are definitely in control.
Kold is back up. He's on his way, but the arrow is back as well. Nukeduck, the Mikhail's Crucible from Mithy, saves him for the moment, and Rogue realize they can't do it. They will settle the score. They'll take the kills, but they will not take the Nasher.
By the skin of their teeth, Origen managed to save that one. That was way too close for comfort. I think Rogue should have turned on them.
Yeah? I mean, they tried to. They tried to for a moment.
Still a little bit split, though.
Yeah.
You can see some of that greenness, the fact that this squad hasn't been together for the longest time.
Is this greed from Kold? Maybe expecting Larssen to have backed away, forced across the wall, tries to flash, and then gets knocked back across it. And this is no way out for him. There's nothing he can do.
I think the bigger issue is not necessarily that Kold was afraid of Azir, because there's that possibility, but not expecting or tracking the abyssal voyage of where Tahm Kench could collapse.
And in this alien where replay Prophet binds the flank that we talked about just a moment before.
Alphari is such a hero here. That Chaos Storm did so much damage.
Kold almost got caught at the arrow. Kold once again, what are you doing, man? Rogue, find the jungler, find the pick. Inspire takes it, and Rogue are looking for the Baron, but now Origen say we have to do something. We're going for mid.
They're going to try to force it in as quickly as possible, but Rogue are behind them. One person is starting up the Baron. Maybe they split the call.
Okay, what do we have on Rogue? No one can teleport back. Patrik's on the base. The inhibitor tower, his target. Rogue looking for the Baron, but Nukeduck's here. Mithy's here. Alphari's here. Can they hold? Can they defend this Nasher as Patrik pushes in? Nasher down to 3,000. Dodged out the final spark. 2,000 left. Prophet going forward. The Nasher secured. And Rogue now stepping into Alphari. The inhibitor is the target for Patrik. He'll take the turret first. And can Rogue get back in time?
Yeah, now Origen just want to chase them, try to delay these backs, but they get off one, they get off two, looking at three, and this means that Patrik will trade the inhib, but not much more.
And with the Baron, Rogue can look to push in these lanes. Only inhibitor towers in top and mid. Still a tower sitting outside of the Origen base in the bottom lane, but this would be their second Infernal as well. Rogue have to push the tempo. Prophet is actually up towards the top lane. He didn't back, but this Infernal might go down too quickly for Rogue to challenge. They decide not to. They're going to look for the 1-4 push with this Baron buff.
I mean, the nice thing is that they do have the likes of Sivir as well as Viktor, so the wave clear is still relatively strong here. But again, anytime you have an Ashe, anytime you're this far ahead, you're feeling confident, especially with Azir. If the arrow goes down, if Rogue want to be bold, they could look for a possible dive.
And the big thing we always used to do when we saw an Ashe on a team was count the flashes. Nukeduck, oh, that was so close. The arrow doesn't connect, but there's hardly any flashes on Origen. Now with the arrow down, it's Inspired. He's just running at Mithy. We heard his story before, but he's not going to get a chance to play in this game. Inspired gobbled up. The Glacial Prism only hits onto Vander. Rogue can now push for the inhibitor and then reset. Look for mid. There's a way pushing in if they want it.
I mean, it's time to move over for a new legend right now. Inspired is having an incredible game, probably his best of the summer split since joining this roster here.
I want to give credit to Larssen in some of these fights as well. He's been using that Emperor's Divide almost perfectly. Both he and Hiku, actually like the entire Rogue roster, has had a very, very strong game. The question is, can they round out this win? Can they take their third win of the split?
And we have to put a critical eye on the likes of Nukeduck as well as Kold. It's been kind of the two most veteran members of Origen that have really fumbled this game so far. They are being punished repeatedly, and Rogue are just running through them.
And you can see here, Inspired just said, okay, Mithy, go back to NA, please. You're not allowed to play on this server anymore. The Glacial Prism only connecting onto Vander, who has been in the perfect position with those devours. Nukeduck now the one, but the arrow goes onto Mithy! Goodbye! Go back to Sven! We don't want you here anymore, say Rogue, as now they look to push in this bottom lane tower.
And you can see it, just Origen head-scratching themselves. How the hell did this happen? Rogue completely dominating in the early game, knowing how to transition it into the Baron, putting Origen to the test, forcing them to make mistakes.
And now just this inhibitor tower stands before them. Their redemption used by Rogue. Glacial Prism doesn't connect, and it's 5v4 in favor of the Rogue squadron. Kold, Nukeduck, Alphari, Patrik is last chance defense for them. They will hold for now. Baron buff down in 50 seconds, but there is another wave coming in pretty soon, and double supers in that top lane.
Alphari is trying his hardest to keep Origen alive in this game, using the Chaos Storm just to dissuade Rogue, but Rogue is still in control.
See how that pick was made. Once again, they were going for Nukeduck, and then they saw a much sweeter target.
Yeah, he immediately turned towards Mithy. The arrow hits him point blank, right in the teeth. And then Inspired's like, good night, sweet prince.
not really much you can do to dodge that. I feel very sorry for Mithy as a support player in this game. But we saw the bans coming out from Origen. They said we don't want to play against Nautilus in lane because you can catch out a Lux too easily. And that's exactly what happens when a Lux does get caught out. 5,000 gold lead for Rogue, 31 minutes in. The Baron buff about to fall off. They only broke one inhibitor tower, and their mid inhib did go down as they took the Baron, remember. So it's still a game on a knife edge, although you have to feel Rogue is in the driver's seat.
I mean, I think that's pretty clear because Inspire just cannot be stopped. Again, the thing is you need to make it count for Olaf. He has to have kill pressure because otherwise he loses a lot of his play patterns, because how much value does a champion bring when his only thing is kind of running into the backline? If you're not fed, if you don't have kill pressure, then you're on a one-way ticket there.
It's a one-way ticket to Decisive. We used to see it a lot with Zyra players as well, separate the Olaf from the team because he would run over the Stranglethorns and the rest of his team really couldn't. But right now, Rogue in a very strong spot. I want to just give him more credit. It's not often we get to praise a team like Rogue because often they're on the
I've been praising Inspire the whole game.
Yeah, but my point is, like, we might as well lavish it on while we have the chance, because right now they're beating our Spring Split finalists. Origen don't even really look to have an answer. Usually Origen are the team that can suss out an answer as the game goes on. They can solve that Rubik's Cube. But here, Rogue keep changing the game. They keep changing the rules to this matchup.
It feels like Origen are a team that kind of hedge their bets a little bit, that they feel that a composition or like Team A versus Team B must play out in like a theoretical way, but we can do this, X, Y, and Z. But when their plans don't go according to plan, yeah, they're still able to kind of find their footing sometimes. You can see that, like you said in that stat, where when they do fall behind or do get a lead, it doesn't really matter because you're still playing with a very intelligent team. But this game did not go to plan. They weren't able to punish Larssen. Inspired had Kold and Nukeduck's number. Heq showing that he is a great Ashe player. He's hit, I think, like every single arrow. I think he's missed 2 arrows this entire game.
That he has. Just so you guys know at home, the original pause was one of the Rogue players accidentally alt-tabbed out of game. And the secondary pause is that Patrick's had to go and spend a penny. So he'll be back in a minute from the bathroom.
I see. That's a...
Oh, sorry, is it Britishism?
Yeah.
Okay, he's had to go to the toilet.
Okay.
So he will be back as soon as he has relieved himself, and then we'll get back on into the action.
We're taking a bathroom break?
We need the lower third. Okay, so we're going to actually have a look at a replay from our pro view as we wait for Patrik to get back. I believe this will be Profit's point of view on that perfect flank.
Just some window shopping. He's like, how can I do as much damage as possible here?
Yeah. But the great thing is, like, we called it, and Rogue, we wondered if they could make these plays in the mid game. We wondered if they could set up a play like this, and that's exactly what they did. They called out Kold, they then pulled Origen into the fight and said, okay, well, you have to take us on, and then we have this perfect ward position to actually make this flank work.
And it wasn't just perfect ward in that one case on that incredible flanking play, you know, Profit doing his best Smeb impression, but they've had great vision control this entire game from Rogue. So again, credit to Vander. Has breathed new life back into the squad as we're back into the game.
That we are back onto the Summoner's Rift. Everyone's relieved and ready. And with an Infernal Drake on the cards next and a Baron up in just a few minutes' time, you have to feel those are the next points of contest for these teams. We have another pause.
No.
Larssen is holding his hand up in disbelief, so I assume it's something on the side of Rogue. We could be something to do with the alt tabs. I am gonna hypothesize, but I'm gonna stop now because I really shouldn't do that. So let's talk about something else.
How's your weekend?
It's been good, thank you. It's been good. Larssen's paused again. So the league officials that are currently investigating is actually one of our lovely producers there, John Daniel Depper, stepping in for the day. Doesn't he look dashing?
Yeah, he's
in his
doing
referee's uniform?
What we've called a French tuck on the shirt.
Oh, what's a French tuck?
So the French tuck is when you tuck in the front of your shirt, but you leave the back of it untucked.
Ooh.
Guys, or anyone who wears a button shirt, this is a great tip to make a casual outfit a bit more formal.
So I tuck in the front and then I pull out the back like this.
Yeah, it creates
That's
that
so
nice
weird.
line for the belt.
Does it look better? Cool.
Well, you can't.
I'm not wearing a belt because I have this looks weird to me.
That looks weird when you're wearing
It's like I've
braces,
got butterfly wings or something on the back. Anyway, back to League of Legends. Let's talk a little bit about Corki and Azir.
Why?
Because my thought
You know what
is...
no one has ever asked themselves in the history of League? Like, let's talk about Azir and Corki. They're just making the game fun, aren't they?
I have a question for you. I have a thought experiment,
Okay.
right? We've seen Origen here. They picked the Sejuani Aatrox. They thought maybe we can match into it. Didn't work, right? It didn't really work for them at all. If you were a coach, as you have been in the past, what would be your answer to an Azir or a Corki pick?
Azir, I really want to see Vel'Koz.
Okay.
Vel'Koz is one of the old school options, because the idea against Azir is you try to outrange him, or as Jizuke showed us last game, you kind of get underneath him on his Sand Soldiers. But I think Vel'Koz is just a really cool champion, especially with Lux and Ezreal still being very much into the meta. The line damage in terms of sending an Ezreal ultimate, sending a Lux ultimate, sending a Vel'Koz ultimate through teams, I just think is a really cool composition. But the issue with Vel'Koz is he's a very specialty-oriented champion. You need to put in a lot of hours to master him, and he's very situational. So why take the time to master Vel'Koz for this type of matchup?
Yeah, for the meta where Azir's in when he might not be in the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas like Azir and Corki will forever be around.
We have seen people like Kobe actually play the Vel'Koz down towards the bottom lane. So maybe he would be the next AD carry. So switching into mid to play Vel'Koz into Azir.
The other one that I want to throw out is Diana into Corki. I'm waiting for a team to pick Corki to try to dissuade an Azir and then to get counterpicked by Diana. Diana can interrupt Corki's Valkyrie.
Oh, wow.
And it was actually played in Ultraliga, which that's where Rogue comes from.
Yeah.
So that's what I was peeking in on. Fun fact, if you go and watch Superliga Orange, Ultraliga, a lot of the LEC teams will scrim them. So it's actually a really good way to kind of figure out what kind of crazy compositions will come out. In our ERLs, they can sometimes play a lot more out-of-the-box stuff than necessarily we see on the LEC. So I just think it's a great time to experiment and see some unique picks.
One of my favorite out-of-the-box things I've seen, Garen Yuumi bot lane. It is oppressive, it's really annoying. If you want to try it out in solo queue, get yourself a Yuumi, get yourself a Garen, hide in a bush and then spin a lot, and it works.
What would you do if you just faced like Karma Ashe?
I would lane swap.
Okay.
Works really well. Just so you guys know, Larssen reported his character in-game is having some unintentional behavior. League officials are currently investigating, so we'll get that sorted as soon as we can. Coming back to this game, I want to look at like how this affects these two teams in the LEC. Because we talked about the individual game, like Rogue's on top, Origen's on top. Say Rogue win this, and you're looking at it from a Rogue perspective. Is this now you saying, well, we just beat a former finalist, we beat a Spring Spike finalist. Are you looking at 6th place? Are you looking at 5th place? Do you think you can get that high in Summer Split? Or is it still we're trying to grow, we're trying to improve, and we're looking for maybe 7th or 8th? I
think it makes a really cool dynamic where Splice then kind of by de facto become the 3rd best team in the LEC. And of course, Splice, it's probably like, we've always been the 3rd. Like, we already beat Origen, it's fine. But I think then Splice is like definitively right there. And it's kind of like G2, Fnatic, whatever order you want to place them in, Gap, Splice. And then maybe you say Origen possibly in a best of 5. But then this like meaty middle pack of your Excels, your Rogues, yay, we're back in game. Then kind of becomes the big question.
Do you not enjoy our discussion about French talks?
No, I really like League of Legends.
So do I, but I agree with you there. I think that's something we should come back to later. I'm sure we'll talk about it on the analyst desk as the day goes on. Of course, Rogue still have to close this one out. They have a 6,000 gold lead, 11 kills to 3 up. They've broken the top lane inhibitor, but their own mid lane inhibitor is down. Baron's just fallen off. Infernal Drake is the next dragon up, and that's the state of the game right now. So Frosk, you can talk about what you want to talk about.
So this is what's going to happen. Heq's arrow is going to hit or it is going to miss. And if it does, you're going to see some explosion where Rogue will take over the map. If it doesn't, it's going to be a reset and possibly waiting for a monster objective. On the other side for Origen, Kold's either going to get caught out or he's not. Hopefully he gets a flank if you're an Origen fan, and then they try to break, get a big 5v5, because at this point in the game, they are strong, their champions are doing damage. It doesn't matter how far behind they were put, so Origen, depending on how the team fight sculpts out, can have a fighting chance here.
As an update for everyone, League officials determined the character had unintentional behavior. The issue should be resolved, and League officials will monitor and continue to investigate in case anything further happens. I do want to think about a little bit more about that point about Kold finding a catch or getting a good enchanted crystal arrow, because to me, the key aspect of that is vision control. You have to be in the fog of war for that arrow to connect. Heq's done it really well this game, and so when you look at Rogue, don't only look at where they're positioning or where they might be finding a fight, look at where the vision comes out from Origen as well.
One of the cool things though is that because Rogue have the likes of an Olaf, their ability to deny vision is that much easier than Origen, because Olaf has so much confidence that he can walk into an area by himself. If he eats any CC, just ult out of it. So you can see Inspired can wander away from his team and kind of cover, you know, two different zones where Vander's on one point, he's placing down a lot of vision, whereas Inspired is clearing it out. Whereas Kold and Mithy have to be best friends. They must be holding hands because Lux, yeah, she can check rushes, but she can't face check in the same safety that Tahm Kench can. And Kold needs to escort his team around because he is the true tank.
He is right now. See Haunting guys coming out here from Larssen alongside the Void stuff on that Azir. As we get towards these 5 items, I really want to point out just some of these big completions because there's a lot of penetration coming out on the side of the Azir. If you can get a few auto attacks off, he's going to do a huge amount of damage. There's a death cap on Alphari, which is only going to allow him to pump out the DPS even more. And importantly, Death's Dance finished on Nukeduck as well. Mitigates so much damage when you get into some of these team fights. If he survives for longer, if he lands one more Q, that could turn the tables of any fight.
Yeah, like I said, it feels like Origen do have some teeth back into this game, and it's not just done and dusted here for Rogue.
Especially with Patrik having over 400 CS, Flame, Horizon, Hiku. As we talked about earlier, though, of course, Hiku playing a different role to Patrik in this game. He's less about being that conventional farm everything AD carry and more about having that arrow, having that pick potential. It's
still not the same kind of 500 CS Sivir win condition, though, because he did itemize into the Maw as his fourth instead of having a secondary BF option, or excuse me, attack speed or BF option.
I do like this when Inspired just like runs straight at Origen, tries to clear out the wave. There's Kennen pushing in. Oh, Prophet's got the teleport behind them. They're looking for the same play. Arrow comes out, hits Mithy. Immediately QSS's it away, but here goes Prophet. Oh my god! That is disgusting! Origen do not get a chance to play League of Legends. Rogue rout them. The Abyssal Voyage coming in behind Alphari here as well, as Vander forces him back into his team. Straight into the waiting arms of Larssen. Rogue destroy Origen in a perfect play.
And they don't even go for the Baron. They immediately turn and say, let's push, get this wave over. They know that Kold is still alive. They're just running it down the top lane.
And once again, it's the catch potential from Hiku. It's the flank potential from Prophet. The TP play was absolutely sublime. And now Rogue looking for the win here against our Spring Split semi-finalists on Nukeduck and Kold. Glacial Prison comes out trying to defend the Nexus Towers, but already one's about to fall. Kold in the middle of it all as Mithy comes up. Final spark gone, Kold gone, and now we'll see if Nukeduck can survive, but the Nexus Towers are gonna die. The Nexus will be the target next. Nukeduck's off the face of the Rift, and on the back of their rookies, Rogue take down Origen.
And everyone had their moment.
It's a day for upsets. XL win, Rogue win. What's going to happen next? Splice going to take down Fnatic. Schalke going to take down G2. Who knows? It's the LEC. It's my favorite league in the world.
Before we move on to that upset potential, huge shout out to everyone. Vander for his saves, the vision control was phenomenal. Hiku for his great performance, hitting so many key arrows. Larssen and Inspired absolutely dominating that early game. Inspired's ability to maneuver around so much vision, make the correct call and the correct choice every single time, and then Prophet with his best Smeb impression, hitting 2 critical flanks with that Kennen.
What a game it was between these two teams. Of course, Origen on the losing side will be pretty dismayed. They only picked up 3 kills this game for us. Their macro was okay, but Rogue just always seemed to be one step ahead, always seemed to be thinking that next level. And Origen will have a lot of thinking to do themselves. After Rip Rivals, after their clear wins there, we thought they were back to their strength, but back here in the LEC, they just don't seem to have found that magic formula.
I mean, this is a really rough pill to swallow for Origen because this was their easiest week. They had Excel and Rogue here. This was supposed to be...
It was a 2-0.
The 2-0. And coming out of this 1-1, especially after their struggles against Excel, you can see it on the player's face. I'm sure that they'll say it in interviews. This one does not feel good.
We'll see what they say throughout the rest of the day. Of course, so many congratulations to Rogue. What an upset from them. Probably the biggest of the day. I think XL, SK, people were siding. It's probably a 70-30, whereas this one was a 90-10 at most in favor of Origen. But on the backs of Inspired, on the backs of Larssen, on the backs of Hiku hitting all those arrows, Rogue able to pick up their 3rd win of the split.
And it's really cool to see Inspired kind of really living up to hype. When you talk to kind of Rogue behind scenes, so much credit is given to this guy. I believe in EU Masters, he had a big following behind him, but it just hadn't translated yet. So to finally have some tape about why people are so excited about this jungler feels really good. And how he works in tandem with Larssen, it was just great. Like, Larssen is a great Azir player. Syndra, Azir, this is his meta. These are the champions that he really thrives on.
Ended 8-0 for, and he is one of your options for Kia Player of the Game. It's Prophet, Inspired, and Larssen. Go on over to @lolesports on Twitter and make sure you vote, because that is a difficult one to call. I think that every one of those 3 had standout moments. I mean, you could chuck Vander in there, you could tuck Hiku in there as well. I mean, we really needed a 5-man vote for this POG.
I think you give it to Inspired because I think he was the guy that actually won you the game. But Prophet and Larssen, like, Inspired set up the dominoes, and Prophet and Larssen were the guys who knocked it out of the park.
Well, we have actually an interview prepared. It's Dracos standing by with the best part of the Ashe Kench combo. It's Vander.
Thank you very much, Medic. Of course, I am joined by Vander to the sound of thunderous applause from our audience here. First off, congrats on the win. Talk to me about the team fight coordination and the incredible flanks that we saw over this game. Who is calling for these big fights on the Rogue lineup?
It depends. So I think in every fight, someone else was calling what to do. Like when we caught Sejuani with Tahm Kench, it was Hiku, and then the Kennen flank was. I probably just called, "Hey, I'm TPing. Is it good?" I'm like, "Yeah, just try. Let's keep going." So sometimes we don't. Like yesterday, we also tried something like this with Mordekaiser on Dragon. It went not our way. But today, the team fights are good, and I feel like in general we like to play in an aggressive way, and I'm happy we showed it today, and it worked actually.
And we heard it from the desk that this kind of felt like a team game overall, but there were some individual moments. Now, since I've got an interview with you, I want to highlight one of them. If you take a look at the screen behind you here. Talk to me. That's also Upset. Hi, Upset. Talk to me about this moment as a Tahm Kench player. What's going through your head? What do the comms sound like when you make this heroic save?
I mean, Azir was screaming for like 10 seconds to help him, but he was a bit too anxious in the situation. I had everything in the control, so yeah, just another day for Tahm Kench.
Just another day. Calm veteran player, keeping a cool head here. Now, winning against Origen, obviously big deal as Upset and G2 start talking.
It's actually a big game coming up.
So I'm curious, looking forward for Rogue, it feels like the top 2, top 3 right now in the LEC are pretty certain, but the rest feels wide open. Where do you see this team by the end of the split?
Well, we just aim for playoffs, and this is our goal, to be top 6 right now, and then wherever we go from there, it's just a bonus. I think we have a lot of rookies, and I'm trying to help them to understand the game better and play better in a team environment. And I think both Inspired and Larssen make a lot of improvement. So let's see how far they will go and how far we'll be, how good are we going to be as a team, right?
Yeah, well, the progress looks fantastic so far. Congrats again on your win over OG. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, Vander. All right, we're going to go to a quick break. When we get back, you see it behind me. It's time for a bit of Schalke versus G2. Don't go anywhere.